sim racing, or whatever your format of racing is. Welcome to another edition of the Joe Sixpack Podcast, where we bring you not only updates on Joe Sixpack Racing, but we do a series what we call the Faces Behind the Races, where we introduce and interview and get people to tell their stories about how they got into iRacing, sim racing, real-life racing, etc. If you're interested in being a guest on the show, if you're a driver or a team member, an admin, a producer, a livery painter, etc., anything, or you think you've got a story to tell, this is the place to tell it. It's the Joe Sixpack Racing Podcast. You can look us up on Facebook at Joe Sixpack Racing Podcast or the Joe Sixpack Racing League page, also on Facebook. Tonight, my special guest on another special edition, they're all special editions of the Joe Sixpack Racing Podcast tonight, is Thomas Brandon Gaming, and he has the School of Sim Racing, which I thought was kind of intriguing. I do the virtual racing school on iRacing to help me get as good as I can be, and it just takes a lot of practice, and we're here. He's going to tell us his story tonight. Thomas Brandon, welcome to the Joe Sixpack Racing Podcast. How you doing this evening?
I'm doing good. Thank you very much for having me on.
Oh, you're welcome. Well, tell me a little bit about yourself. I got your story here about what you do as far as when you started the Thomas Brandon Gaming School of Sim Racing, but tell me a little bit about your backstory. Any history of racing, when you first got interested in racing, what form of racing, the favorite driver, and have you ever driven on the track in real life?
Oh, yeah. So I got into racing when I was probably 5 years old. My uncle took me to the local dirt track, and I was basically hooked ever since then. The modifieds, and they ran, street stocks and super stocks and sprint cars and stuff like that here at the local dirt track. And so I was basically hooked at a young age. I'd always loved racing. And I went to the races every weekend, loved it. And when I was probably 6 or 7, I raced BMX and went to, the state championships and all these different things, for BMX and stuff like that. But we stopped doing that when I was probably 8 or 9. It was, pretty expensive. My dad at the time was working, 75, 80 hours a week. And so it was just harder to do. And so
Yep.
Kind of stopped doing anything racing until turned about 11 years old. My best friend started running outlaw carts, and I would go to the races every weekend with them. And so that's what I did every summer with him. Was we would go to the outlaw cart races every Saturday until I was finally able to get an outlaw cart together for myself. And so I raced outlaw carts for a few years, and after a few years of that, I pretty much realized that I was never going to go anywhere above outlaw carts as a driver. Everything that I had in terms of equipment was literally hand me down. It was, it was used. To call it used might even be kind of an overstatement. It was wore out. I mean, it was just, it was anything I could get from people, to get the thing together. And it was fun. It was great. I loved it. I didn't have a ton of success. I won a trophy dash, won a race, just a couple little things, but It was just fun. I just loved it. Okay. And
at what point?
So we did the outlaw carts for a long time.
Okay. At what point did you accept the fact that, or let me rephrase the question there. There's a lot of guys that race just for the love of racing, knowing they're never going to win. At what point did just going out to race lose its appeal, and knowing that you, because of your equipment, etc., and the cost of it, did that become more of a downer than just the joy of racing?
Well, that actually never happened. So what happened is one of the men who helped me get into the name of Ron Matthews. and Ron's no longer here, unfortunately. But Ron had raced, stock cars and modifieds and stuff for years, and his son raced outlaw karts with us. And Ron actually was the one who got the outlaw kart for me and his grandson to share. Well, Ron wanted to get his son Shane into midgets and sprint cars.
Yep.
And so at this time, I was 16 years old, 15, 16 years old. I wanted to, I realized, like I said, I wasn't going to be going anywhere as a driver, but I wanted to work in racing. That was always my dream. I wanted to work in racing. And so my dream, my goal, I wanted to really learn racing, and then I wanted to go back to North Carolina. To me, that was going to be the goal. I wanted to go back to North Carolina, try to get a job in NASCAR. I didn't know how I was going to do it, but that was what I was going to do. And so I started when Ron was talking about putting a sprint car, or midget, and stuff like that together. I jumped at the opportunity. We went back to the Chili Bowl back in, it was 2000. Or no, not even 2000, 1999, I think. 1999, we went back, and we had met up with a guy by the name of Terry Caves at the end of the race. Terry's driver, Bud Kading, had just finished third in the Chili Bowl, and Ron was looking at, buying a car, and Terry kind of motioned us over and said, "Hey, you want to get him in a midget? I'll make you a deal." And so, literally, couple months later, we've got the midgets and we're putting them together, and we're getting ready to go out and start running BCR and Western, USAC Western states. Yeah. And I'm right there. That was it. Terry started teaching me, everything that I needed to know. Ron had took me and Shane. Jimmy Sills, one of the great drivers of, open wheel dirt drivers of all time, especially out here where I'm at in Northern California. His racing school is 5 minutes from my house. And so Ron put me in that as kind of the mechanic crew chief learning route, and his son for the driving stuff. And so that was kind of how my path changed, how I became, the mechanic setup crew chief guy as opposed to the driver.
Excellent. And what state were you in when you first started, when you said like 8 or 9 years old? Was that California, or was that on the East Coast?
Yeah, I've been in Northern California my whole life.
Really? So there's I don't know what there's I guess perception, I guess I'd have to say, from us East Coast guys that racing on the West Coast really isn't a big priority. It's all surfing and redwood trees. Help me dispel that myth for me.
That's I've dealt with that my whole life. Yeah. When I would go up and visit family in Washington, people would be like, "Oh my God, you're from California? Do you surf?" It's like, no, I live in the valley. Like there's no ocean here. We're hours away from it.
Okay.
I call it the armpit of the state. Like it's just here where we're at the rate. It's not like. Obviously, it's not like Indiana or Pennsylvania or something like that, right? Where you've got sprint car racing or dirt track racing literally 6 nights a week, 7 nights a week. It's not like that. But those who are here that are into racing are very hardcore about it. Look, I raced outlaw karts with Brad Sweet and Kyle Larson and Robert Ballou. You're talking about 3 world champions, NASCAR champion, a World of Outlaws, multiple champion, USAC champion. Like those guys, awesome. I raced outlaw karts against them for years. And they all kicked my butt. Like it was I never could contend with them. But those are the types of drivers who've come out of Northern California. You know what I mean? Like we've had great drivers come out, from here. So it's just. It's just different. It's not as concentrated, but the ones who do come from here are very, very good. It is a priority for those of us who are in it.
Got it. Okay, so there's no truth to the rumor that you guys would rather be surfing than surfing around the dirt track.
No, I would much rather be at the dirt track.
I got it. Oh, what I've learned, I've been doing this podcast for our league. It started out just as a weekly broadcast for the league because we ran 2 or 3 different leagues, and we've got drivers from all over the world. We're a beer league. This is like your softball Sunday afternoon beer league. If we were in the official races in iRacing, we would be the bottom split drivers, but we're happy with that because we've got a bunch of dedicated guys that come out and race their butts off, and they practice all week, and it's just the right mix, and we're really competitive. And I'm amazed that just about everybody I've interviewed from different teams and broadcasters and stuff, and this is probably the 20th episode. Just about everybody that's on iRacing except me has some background with either dirt tracks or they knew somebody. Last night I had a couple guys on from our league, and his grandfather raced with the Moonshiners before NASCAR was NASCAR, and he was friends with Richard Petty. And it's probably because I wasn't hanging around dirt tracks when I was younger. I can say I've had lunch with Skip Barber. I work over at Lime Rock, which is about an hour from our house here, for a couple of, well, I call it work, but it's a very elite volunteer group, the right-handers over at Lime Rock Park, that runs their customer service and shuttling the drivers back and forth to the media room, making sure they get to the winner's circle, etc. And I can say that I've had lunch with Skip Barber, so that's about my connection.
Cool.
That's my connection to racing. That, and last year at Watkins Glen, the 6 hours of the Glen for the IMSA race, we were going up there anyway. I entered the WeatherTech contest, and we got free tickets to their hospitality room, air-conditioned, and food and booze all day long, and I actually got a chance to ride in the Toyota Supra, going around entire Watkins Glen track at 145 miles an hour without a helmet on, just a seatbelt with the driver. So that was
awesome.
Cool. Oh, it was great. It was the driver was doing. I had my camera out, of course, on my phone, recording it, and we're going down the front stretch because we started just at the beginning of entrance to pit road. And by turn one, we're at 120. I'm like, okay, 120. Then we go through the S's, and we come out of the S's, and going to the bus stop, the guy's like, well, we're doing this. We're up to 145. Here comes the bus stop. Whoa, now we're doing 90. The G-force from going from 145 miles an hour to 90 while doing, going half around, whatever you want to call it there, a roundabout was unbelievable. So...
yeah, I can only imagine.
Yeah, so I'm kind of jealous of all you guys that started racing when you're young, and I'll be 60 in a couple weeks, and I just started doing this about 5 years ago. So I've got a lot to catch up to you.
Yeah, well, the good thing about sim racing, and for every person like me, in terms of, raced, and maybe it was, only, 4 or 5 years like I where I was actually racing myself, or maybe somebody raced their entire childhood, right? And, outlaw carts or quarter midgets, or maybe, mini sprints or something like that. There's all kinds of people who never get to make it to a sprint car,
right,
or a late model, right, or a GT3 car, or a NASCAR, or an Indy car, or whatever. Take your pick of incredibly expensive machinery that most people will never get to be behind the wheel of. And one thing that I had looked for and tried to replace for years, from when I blew out my knee in high school and couldn't play sports anymore. Racing was the one thing that I still had, because I didn't have to run. It didn't matter that my knee was junk. I didn't have to run. I just needed to be able to move my foot enough to push the gas pedal.
Right.
Was competition. I've always loved competition. And that's the thing that I enjoy the most about sim racing. Yes, it gives me an opportunity to race in these cars, and yes, we can sit and argue all day long about whether or not they're accurate or like the real thing or anything like that, like whatever. But at the end of the day, it gives me a chance to do something that I enjoy, and it allows me to compete and have fun. And that's the biggest thing for me. And I think one of the reasons why so many people who have racing experience are drawn to sim racing is because, one, of the racing aspect of it, but two, it's the competition aspect of it. That's the thing that people who have competed, at not even at a high level, just at an average, a mild level of it, finding something to fill that is incredible.
It is. I'm on the Facebook iRacing groups because I promote our league, I promote the podcast. And every once in a while, I find myself getting dragged into the mud. Well, iRacing should do this. NASCAR sucks. Da 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 da. And and like you said, we're all racing the same car. Whether it's the next gen, which is going to evolve over time, and everybody says, "Oh, I don't like driving that car." Da da da. unless you're doing an open series, and our league is fixed setups. You're all basically driving the same car on the same track for the same amount of laps, and the only thing that's going to make you lose or win is how you compete against the next guy. Other than that, it's all the same car. So I'm like, quit your bitching. You're racing it at the closest you're going to be to an actual track. If you don't like it, go out and buy yourself a car and find yourself $30 million in sponsors and go race the big boys. Otherwise, shut up and drive.
Yeah, and that's something that, and look, I say it all the time in a lot of the videos that I put out, whether it's YouTube or training videos to the people in the community or whatever. We're human beings. I mean, human beings, if there's one thing that we love to do, it's complain. We love to complain,
Yes,
right? Like, most people are just like that, and some people are worse, right? I mean, I've said forever now that sim racers are like keyboard warriors on steroids. You could give them $100, they'll bitch that it's in 5s and not 10s. Like, that's just how most of them are. Yeah. And look, I'm guilty of it too when it comes to complaining about certain things. Like right now, the wing sprint car absolutely drives me nuts. The fact that you can, do that setup exploit and it'd be 0.2 of a second faster, I hate it. But at the end of the day, knowing what I know about race cars, having spent years setting these things up in real life and going to racetracks and learning all the stuff that I've learned, the physics behind something like iRacing, right? When you start talking about vehicle dynamics, like there's no shortage of people out there who, they love to talk about all this stuff about, vehicle dynamics and how to do this stuff and setups and stuff like that. And the truth is most people don't know what they're talking about. As much as I know, I am an absolute amateur to the people who are behind the scenes working on this stuff. Right. And I just try to tell people, go to a racetrack, all right? Go to a racetrack, pick a car. I don't care which one you pick. You can pick the Legends, the Street Stocks, or the brand new Mercedes F1 car. But I want you to go to the racetrack, watch that car, laser scan the car, all right? And then I want you to take what that car does, the physics of it, all the stuff that's happening under the hood, right? I mean, think about it. Mercedes, they have, how many engineers do they have?
Oh, my gosh.
I mean, they've got thousands of employees who work on those cars. They've got dozens and dozens of engineers who set them up. All right, take all of that, and then I want you to turn it into ones and zeros that work in a sim. The fact that we have what we have is incredible.
It is.
It really is. Because most people are so spoiled with what we have. And like I said, and don't get me wrong, iRacing, let's not act like they're perfect. They're not. They have their flaws. There are things that are absolutely frustrating, and I completely understand where people are coming from with stuff. I really do. But the amount of complaining that is in the sim racing community about stuff is just ridiculous. Because what we have, it really is incredible. Look, if you are like myself, like I just said, I'm not a big fan of the wing sprint cars right now. Guess what? I don't drive them.
Okay.
I drive them, I drive them 2 nights a week when it's my league, and then I drive other stuff. I drive the stuff that I do like. You have plenty of options. You don't have to drive the car that you hate. Why are you driving the car you hate? Like, what? Exactly. Why are you complaining about it? Yeah. Go drive something else. There's plenty of options. So, that's something that I've always been. It just drives me nuts. I'm with you because I think we do. And I throw myself in there because, like I said, I'm guilty of it too. But I think we just, as a whole, as a community, do far too much complaining and griping when what we have at the end of the day is actually pretty cool, and they improve on it.
Oh, sure, and they're pretty good on taking suggestions too. I think you hit the nail on the head. Not only do they have to scan the car and figure out what it does on the track, but like you said, they've got a double duty. They've got to now replicate what it does in real life on a computer screen and make it seem like it's real.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Okay. You know what I mean? Like, it's insane. If I went to, I don't know, 97% of sim racers, And I said, look, I want you to calculate the dynamic load on the right rear tire of a wing sprint car, right?
Yep.
Here's the torsion bar, here's the arm length. I'll give you all the information that you need to accurately calculate that. Now, do it.
And they can't do
Most
it.
people are not going to be able to do that. iRacing has to be able to do that, and not only do it, but they need to be doing it in real time based on what the driver is inputting with the throttle and the steering wheel, what's happening with the track, what's happening with the tire. All of that is happening in real time, and it's happening, hundreds of times a second.
Right.
Like, that is a very difficult thing to do. It's extremely difficult to do.
Oh, exactly.
I mean, yes, we have the technology and stuff, but when we sit and we get so mad and angry about these little things, it's like, can we just pump the brakes a little bit? Like, I mean, what we got is really, really cool.
Yeah.
I'm looking. It's pretty incredible.
Yeah, I went into. I'm not tech savvy. I like tech. You can show me a program, and I'm like, I got to plow my way through it to figure it out on my own, because a lot of the instructions are either not there or they're horribly written, especially for my generation, as I was told last night by somebody from another generation. It was pretty funny. And I said, "Are you calling me old?" He goes, "No, you're just from another generation." I'm like, "Okay, I'll let me get into the league here, and I'll cancel your end of line start for Sunday afternoon for calling me old." But I started looking at the setups and stuff like that, and how everything is, you adjust this and it affects that over there. And I realized it wasn't for me to do my own setups, because every time I did the camber for the left front tire, the fuel door popped open, and I said, "I'm done."
Yeah.
So, you started, when did you get into iRacing? Because I know you started in 2020 with the School of Sim Racing. What did you do in sim racing before you started your School of Sim Racing?
So in 2019, at that time, I had been working full-time as a pit boss at a casino, and I had spent the last, from about 2014 to 2019, I had been trying to get in I had an online business that I was trying to get going. Mm-hmm. I worked in the financial markets as a Forex trader of the foreign exchange markets. I was a currency trader.
Oh, cool.
And not only did I trade for myself, but I also taught other people how to do it. And one of the things that happens as a swing trader, like I am, is you get these lulls where there's not much happening.
Right.
I might make 5 trades in one day, or I might have 5 days where I do nothing. And one of the worst things that can happen for a trader is feeling the need to be in the market, and it can happen to the best of us. And so I was just looking for something to kind of kill time while I'm waiting for something to happen in the markets. And I hadn't really done much gaming or sim racing or anything like that. The last sim racing game that I had played, I guess you would call sim racing, was the NASCAR Racing 2, back on Papyrus or whatever it was.
Oh wow.
And I was in high school, when I played that last. So I just was like, I used to love that World of Outlaws sprint car game on Ratbag. My trading computer is basically like a gaming computer. I'm like, I wonder if they have anything like that now, because I had been paying attention to games or anything. And I just looked up dirt track racing game, and up popped iRacing.
Kidding.
I watched a video of it, and I was like, this is incredible. I'm in.
Yeah.
And I signed up right then and there. And I didn't have a wheel. I didn't have nothing. I was on a controller, and I bought a wheel the next day. And I started driving, in it was April of 2019. And I had only did it for about a month and a half, 2 months. Mm-hmm. I had actually stopped because I had found that I was spending more time sim racing than actually on my business, which at the time was helping to support my family. So I was like, I gotta stop this sim racing stuff.
I
can't do this right now. So I'd stopped.
And it's pretty hard to make.
I didn't get back on until 2020.
Ah, okay. And it's very hard to make money on iRacing, even harder than it is in real life.
It is. Especially with the wife and 2 kids. And so I stopped, and it was end of 2019, beginning of 2020. My son was on holiday break from school, and he had come into my office one day, and he was like, "Hey, Dad, do you still have that race car game?" And I was like, "Well, no, but I can get it. I said, I just got to renew the membership. And I said, and just kind of update everything, because I hadn't updated nothing. I hadn't been on it, in like 8 months. And so he was like, well, I want to play it. And so I was like, okay.
Cool.
And so I just went and signed back up and downloaded all the updates and everything. And he raced on it for 20-30 minutes, and then he got bored. And I was like, all right, well, I'll hop on here and race on it. And I started racing on it again. I did a couple of races, and it had been a while. I was like, oh, I remember how much I enjoyed this. And so I just slowly started doing it again. And at that time, this was, like January of 2020. At that time, I was doing, I still had my online business, but I was kind of transitioning over to a different corner of the financial services industry. And I was doing kind of life insurance and retirement plans and stuff like that. Well, at this time, we're not at lockdown, but this is where people are starting to get scared.
Right.
And they're starting to get worried. And so I've got people that I'm supposed to be having these meetings with and stuff that are like, hey, we don't want to meet right now, because a lot of them were 50 years or older. And so I was ending up with a lot of free time on my hands. And so I was, I didn't have much to do. I was just sim racing. I was just kind of on the sim. And I had started a YouTube channel for my son and me, because my son wants to be a YouTuber one day.
Don't we all?
The goal of the channel, the whole purpose of the channel is when, me and him play like Minecraft together or something like that, we would just put it up on YouTube. Like that was it. I had a YouTube channel with my other business, and so I knew a little bit about it. And so I was like, yeah, we'll do that, buddy. It'll be fun. This was kind of like his early birthday present.
Cool.
And he got in trouble and had his Xbox taken away. And that channel was just sitting there, and I had kind of gone on this mission to figure out, what I was missing with the sprint cars in the sim, because I was getting kind of pissed. I'm like, I know how to set these up in real life. Why is this stuff not working?
Yep. And
I finally figured it out. And when I did, people would everyone would always ask for, anybody got a setup? Anybody, what should I do here? And so I was like, we've got this YouTube channel. I'll just make a video and put it on there and, kind of show people how to set up your wing sprint car in iRacing. And that was literally how it got started.
Good. So what did you figure out was wrong between what you knew in real life and sim life? What would you have to change on the setups?
Oh, well, first of all, you had to jack the front end like all the way up. You had to put like easy up shocks on the front. You had to, run the wing flat and forward like at all times. Like it was just a couple of like these really weird things that, had we done that in real life, had I set my car up like that, or when I was, crew chief, and had I set up the car like that for Shane, and he had seen me, he'd be like, dude, are you trying to kill me? Like, what are you doing? Like I would never do that. Yeah. And so it was just a couple of, like the cars were like 70% accurate in terms of like, when it came to the wheel spacing, it was kind of close. The staggered numbers were kind of close. The weight that you would, jack into the rear end was a little close, but there was definitely some things that were not really right, like the ride heights and stuff. We never do ride heights. We block sprint cars. We don't measure them with a tape measure or anything like that.
Okay.
So I was there and I was like, God, I'm missing something, but I don't know what it is. And there was a guy by the name of Jason Burton. I don't know if he's on the sim anymore, but at that time, there was a official 360 race that would happen every morning at 5:30 a.m. my time, and every morning I would run that race. And I was the only person from like West Coast there. Everybody else was East Coast. Yep. And it was like the same 15 of us every morning in this race, and one of them was a guy named Jason Burton, he's phenomenal. I mean, he was like a 5K I rating. He won almost every day. I mean, he was just insanely fast. But he was one of those guys who he didn't mind telling people what he was doing. Sure. And someone had asked a question or had made a comment during the feature. We were running at Knoxville, and we were in the feature, and I was running like, I don't know, 11th or 12th. And I couldn't figure out why these guys were just pulling away from me on the straightaways when I'm going straight and they're sliding all over the place and they're just pulling away from me. I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. And someone had made a comment about their wing, and Jason, who was in the lead, he said, well, I've got my wing at 24 degrees and it's all the way forward. It's only back at -1. And here I am, I've got my wing back at 8 or 9. It's almost all the way back. And I was like, oh my God, that's what's killing all my speed. Here I am thinking like it's more like a real sprint car. Hey, keep it straight and keep it gripped up. And no, it's like slam the wing forward. And, and when I did that, I was like, oh my God. I mean, immediately it was like 0.2 of a second. It was like an insane amount of time faster. I was like,
oh, that's big time.
Gosh. So that was a really big one.
Yeah. When you discovered this, did anybody go back to iRacing that you know of and say, hey, this is not how it really is?
Well, as far as I know, people have been telling iRacing that forever.
Oh, okay.
I mean, if you go look at the forums and stuff, there's all kinds of stuff where they had been telling them, hey, this isn't right, this isn't right. So it's from my understanding, that's been going on forever. Because I'd seen a lot of the forum posts that people had posted. In fact, that was, one of the other, there's, really 3 people that I kind of credit with the breakthrough and kind of the whole, where I'm at today. I mean, this is what I do for a living now. I sim race for a living. It's how I feed my family, pay my bills, School of Sim Racing, my league, my broadcast network. It's what I do it's my job. And
that's cool.
Jason Burton and Weston Newell and another guy by the name of Scotty Edwards, he had a post in the forum where he kind of went through and broke down everything on the sprint cars and kind of talked about, hey, this is what happens in real life, but this is what happens in the sim. He kind of compared the two. Yeah. And that was where the last little puzzle piece that I had been missing was where I figured that out. And once I did that, then I was able to kind of take the stuff that worked in the sim with my knowledge of real life and put it together. And that was when things started to really happen.
Cool. Now, is your son involved with the sim racing school?
He does sim race sometimes. He just comes on whenever he wants.
Gotcha.
He's not actually in the sim racing school, though. I mean, technically, there's not really a school. So what happened is, like I said, that those first 3 videos that I put out, and I put them all out on like the same day, because it was how to set up a sprint car, how to set up a sprint car for the heat race, how to set up a sprint car for the feature. Like it was kind of like 3 things, talking about qualifying, heat race, and feature. And I titled the playlist on YouTube School of Sim Racing. That was the name of the playlist.
Right.
I never intended to have a school. This was never a plan.
Yeah.
I mean, School of Sim Racing was just the name of the playlist on YouTube.
Right.
The YouTube channel used to be called T&I 35, which was Tommy and Isaac 35. If you actually go listen to it's like the first or second video, you'll hear me talk about how that's me and my son's channel. No, it's not my son doesn't have anything to do with the channel anymore. It's we built him another one now, but yeah, I mean, this was I never intended for this. It was never meant to be a school. That was the name of the playlist.
Yeah.
And
so how did
that first video, within a few days, I had people sending me messages on Facebook asking how to join my school. And I was like, I don't have a school.
You do now.
I was like, that's just the name of the playlist. And it really blew up. And so what had happened was I started getting so many people who were asking me for help. And keep in mind, at the time, I do have another business, and I do have, I'm trying to work over here, because I'm not making money off of this stuff over here right now. This is just, it's just a hobby where I'm trying to help people. And so I'm trying to figure out like how to help these people while still being able to do my other business, all this stuff. And I had so many people asking me. I started asking around. I was like, "Look, is there a place where I can send these guys to? Like, is there somewhere that does teach this stuff that I can send them to?"
There's not a lot.
And The only thing that people recommended was VRS and virtual racing school. And so when I went and looked at virtual racing school, I was like, well, this is really cool. Like, I mean, they've got, you know, some of the best drivers on here, and they've got these videos that kind of show you how to go around, you know, like the fast line at the track, and they give you a setup, and you can do coaching with them. But the people that were asking me for help weren't anywhere near that level. Like, most of the people who were asking me for help, they were not at like a VRS level. They were at like a, hey man, I can't go down the back stretch in a straight line. Like, I mean, it was stuff like that. Hey man, I don't know how to drive a car through the corner without hitting the wall. What can I do? Like, it was very, very, you know, low level drivers. So and these guys are not people who, you know, go in and setting up a one-on-one session, right, with Keegan Leahy, you know what I mean? To learn the basic fundamentals is, you know, like, they don't want to spend money on that, and I don't blame them, right? Like, that's a lot. And so that was when I started looking at it. I was like, okay, well, maybe I can do something to kind of help these guys, help people.
Cool.
And so that was where the first concept of doing this started to come to mind. But
great.
Initially, it was going to be just it was going to be a 6-week training, and that was going to be it. I wasn't going to do anything else.
Okay. I'm on your website now.
It was just simple.
Cool. So I'm on your website now on the page that says what we do. Can you explain the difference between your free trainings and your insider program, and then tell me about your expert coaching? What do I get for free versus the insider program, and what's the insider program cost, if anything?
Okay, so the free training, so like right now, for example, our free training, I have a free asphalt oval masterclass where I start off in the late model stocks. I don't do street stocks on anything. I don't touch street stocks and legends. So I usually start off with the D-class car. We start off with the late model stocks. I show the basics of driving those, kind of the basics of setting them up, and I do that for every car all the way up to the NASCAR Cup Series, the A car.
Cool.
You know, show the basics of driving it.
Yep.
You know, different techniques, whether it's like, you know, braking, you know, how the steering is, you know, just kind of the basics for driving it, things like that. And then I do a training video on how to set them up, the basics of what they do, right? The springs versus the track bar, or the trailing arms, or the ARB, the front ARB, what is arm symmetry, like all of that stuff. And that's all in the free trainings. We have a lot of free setup guides. So, you know, a guide that, you know, like I just put out one for the NASCAR Next Gen car. It's a free PDF that you can download, or it's like a Google Doc or something that you can download, and I take you through the process that I go through of building a setup for that car. You know, how I determine what springs I'm going to run, or shocks, or, you know, all of that stuff, and I just take you through the process. All that stuff is in our free membership site. The free stuff is to help you get going. That's what the free stuff is for.
Got it.
We have lots of free setups. The free setups are for people who want a baseline that is, you know, better than iRacing's, right? I mean, it's not, you're not going to go out and just be dominating and winning races from a setup. A setup, I always talk about, a setup is you got to get it dialed in for you.
Right.
I don't care who you buy it from. It doesn't matter. It's got to fit your driving. And so we've got free setups that people can take and build off of those.
Sure.
You know, that's all the free stuff, and we have more free stuff that we're going to be adding. I've got we're going to be doing a new dirt like free masterclass, like the one that we did. The first ever training that we did was an open wheel dirt masterclass. We're going to be doing an updated one of those. That'll be on the free membership site for people. You know, kind of show them the basics of driving the open wheel dirt cars. We'll do the same thing for the late models and the big blocks, and that stuff's all free, and it'll be on the on the site forever.
Yeah. Now, just want to jump in for a second. You touched on something really important there. And when I had Jeff McConey from McConey Setup Shops here, he said almost verbatim what you said. The setup has to be right for you, the way you drive.
Yes.
And it's not a cookie cutter thing. It might be...
No.
So when do you get involved with how a driver drives versus the free setup? So let's say you give me a basic setup because I'm going to run Las Vegas this weekend, and it's in the Gander trucks. It's 100 laps, after dark. And okay, so you give me that free one. At what point do you start getting involved in asking the driver, okay, here's our basic, how do you drive? Do you like it loose? Do you drive from the front wheel, drive from the back wheel? And so basically what I'm leading into is, when do you start charging for the getting more specific with the setups to the driver's style of driving?
So the way that pricing works for me, okay, is I charge for my time. Mm-hmm. That's the simplest and easiest way to put it for me. If it takes my time, specifically my time, meaning that it's not something that I was going to be doing anyway, or it's not something that I've invested a ton of time or whatever, something like that. Like that's where we get into a cost. If somebody sends me a message and they're like, hey man, like you, for example, right? You've got a free setup and you're at Vegas and you're like, hey man, I'm burning up the right front tire after like 25 laps and I can't figure out how to fix it. I've got no problem shooting a message back to you saying, hey man, try making these adjustments, loosen it up and see if that doesn't help. Now, if I get 20 more messages with 20 more questions, right? And you want to know everything from, hey, how do I do this and how do I do this? That's when I'll say, look, man, I'll gladly help you, but we might need to schedule a session. Okay. Because now it's not just me answering a question or helping somebody out. I'll gladly answer questions for people. But when they're wanting to get into specifics and the nitty gritty and stuff like that, that's where it's like, look, we might need to schedule a session. Okay.
Okay.
And I always tell people, I make paying the last option. Mm-hmm. I don't tell if someone comes to me and says, hey man, I need help with this, my response to them is not schedule a one-on-one session. That is literally the last thing I want to do. I always try, and it's hard for people to believe this. It really is. And I understand it, right? Mm-hmm. Especially now there's so many setup shops and so much crap out there right now. You talk about Jeff McConey. He's one of the few people that has a setup shop that I have respect for, because he's honest. A lot of the setup shops that do the whole, here, get my stuff and you'll win, it's such a bold-faced lie, and it disgusts me. It makes me sick because it couldn't be further from the truth.
Sure.
It really couldn't be. So for me, charging money really is the last thing I want to do. Even though this is how I feed my family, I don't want people to waste money. I don't want someone to come into a one-on-one session and spend money if they could have learned that stuff in a free video that I already have on YouTube.
Right.
I really don't, because I'm not trying to just take money from people. It's why we always say on, whether it's on the website or me talking or whatever, SSR is a community. That's what we are. Yes, we have paid services, but we are a community first.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, there's nothing that would please me more than to double the size of the community, because then I wouldn't have to charge for stuff. Then I could have brands and sponsors and products and stuff like that of companies saying, look, we want to market to your people, because then I can charge them money and give the community stuff for free. I would much rather do that.
Sure.
So that's the cut. I know I'm rambling right now, but that's my cutoff. Is when it specifically is going to take my time. That's where a charge comes in. And like I said, when it comes to the one-on-one coaching, I really, truly, honestly try to make that the last resort for people. Okay. I would much rather, because I put out hundreds of videos on YouTube. We have free trainings on the website. There's usually something out there that they can have for free that will help them before they need to spend money for a one-on-one session.
Got it. How well is it working growing the community and getting sponsors, etc., out there to say, hey, this guy's got something there? How do you go about building your brand?
Well, we just build the brand right now through the stuff that we're doing, YouTube, and just being out there. I am in touch with more businesses and companies and stuff like that. Now that we've got, we're over 5K, we're like almost 5,500 on YouTube. My live streams average, I don't know, 40, 50 people or whatever it is, which is actually pretty decent for YouTube.
Oh, it is, yeah.
With that, the community itself, we've got, over 3,000 in the Discord. I've got, 3,000 plus on the email list. I mean, if you go through like the actual community size of unique individuals is like around 7,000 people, 8,000 people. So, I mean, it's getting there, and we've had people reach out to us, and there's been a couple that I've worked with on a kind of just a startup, whether it's like a joint venture type thing or something like that. And those have gone well. But, we're getting more and more, we're getting closer and closer to that point. And I am working on, I don't know what you would call it, the proposals or whatever, because I am going to be starting to reach out to more and more of them here in the next, probably, I would say 3 to 6 months.
Great. Without mentioning brand names, if you don't want to, what specific manufacturer types or what types of products would somebody market to your community?
Anything that has anything to do with men, pretty much. I mean, any type of male-oriented product. Okay. I mean, that's really it.
So it's not
the cool thing about our community is that I've got 12-year-olds up to, I think our oldest member is like 78 years old, and everything in between.
I don't feel that old.
So I mean, anything.
Okay, so it's more like a lifestyle community than a sim racing community.
Honestly, it really is. That's something that we've tried to do from the very beginning.
Yep.
And that's one of the, all the years that I spent learning, online marketing and sales, and the years that I was in the Forex markets and the financial services and stuff, I learned a lot of stuff not to do. One of the reasons I did not succeed in those other markets is because I refused to be a scumbag. I wish I had a better way of putting it, right? Like, I just couldn't go out and say, like, here I am, I'm telling the truth, I'm being honest. Look, it's going to cost you thousands of dollars. You still might not succeed, and you're going to need to put in a ton of work, and there's no guarantee of success. Or you can have option B over here, where this guy says, hey man, buy my magic trading system for $250 and turn $500 into $5,000 in 30 days, right? Like, who are you going to go with? You're not going to go with me, right? People don't want to. No one buys hard work, right? Like, no one's like, oh, dude, I can't wait to work harder. Like, nobody wants to do that. So,
when you mention Forex and being the scumbag versus the honest guy, my son is down on Long Island, and he's working in the rare coin and currency business, and he runs He works for a very legitimate operation about halfway out in Long Island, and some of their biggest customers are the telemarketers who and he's learned to sell the telemarketers by playing the telemarketers game to the telemarketer. Hey, we've got this really great stuff in here. It's not going to last. You're going to want this. I'm going to give you this offer only to you, and it's only good for the duration of this phone call. And he's selling the telemarketers using the same pitch the telemarketer would tell you about some rare gold coin that he just happens to have, and it's only good until the end of the phone call.
Yes. That's awesome.
You said that, and I'm like, yep, because I watch some of these guys on TV, and I've got to be careful because I'm one in the lawn and garden business. I'm trying to protect the integrity of my trade with all these fake gardeners on the Facebook garden groups who basically I call them the Epsom salts mafia, because Epsom salts will make your tomatoes bigger. They'll kill insects. They'll kill weeds. It's an herbicide. It's a fungicide. It's magic. It makes your tomatoes taste sweeter, and there's nothing further from the truth. So
Yeah.
so I've got to watch some of these guys when they're on TV, and they're like, "Whoa, I've got this bag of Morgan dollars here, and let's just pick like the Carson City Mint for Morgan dollars out in Nevada. Those are the most highly sought after Morgan dollars because it's the Wild West, it's the late 1800s. They're not really, major cities out there yet like the East Coast. And let's just pick a number like if it's 1890 Morgan dollar, they'll have an 1890 on the front, and then on the end of the roll, they'll have a Carson City one, but not one that's necessarily the 1890 that's on the front, which might be worth $25,000. The one on the back might be worth $30, and they'll say, "Whoa, this is an unopened roll. It says right here, Carson City Mint." Well, that's not what it says on the roll for real when they came out of there, because they came out in big bags, the cloth bags. And he says, "Oh, it's an 1890 on the front. What's the possibility that this are an 1890 CC?" Because they're showing the front of the coin on one end of the roll of coins and the back end of the coin on the other, and they're using that very distant connection between 1890 being the famous one, but if it's 1890 from Philadelphia or anywhere else, it's not worth anything but the melt value. And they're showing a Carson City on the back, and he says, could there be an 1890? Could this be an entire roll of 1890 CCs?
Yeah.
If it is, this roll is worth $200,000, and we're selling it to you for $399.99. I'm like, yeah, right. You're not going to open that up and check and make sure there's no 1890 CCs in there. So I got to be I got to be careful going after him, because my son's pretty well known in the business, and I don't want one of his customers to call up and go, "Hey, who's this guy with the same last name as yours chewing me out?" So I know the routine. I've been there, done that.
Yeah, it is, and it's tough, and like I said, we've always just put the community first.
Yep.
When we, the first training. So after I put up those YouTube videos, and things really kind of blew up, and all of a sudden I got all these people asking for help, and I mean, the next thing you know, I'm getting people, "Hey, can you do this for the late models? Can you do this for this car? Can you do this for this car?" I mean, it was incredible the amount of people that needed help, and I had people asking if I would do a training, and I had said in a video, I was like, "Look, you guys, if I do a training," I said, "this is something that I have to record and put together and put a lot of time in." I said, "I have another business." I said, "If I do this, I have to charge money for it."
Of course.
I said, I can't justify the time loss.
Right.
And at that point I was thinking, look, I'll do this training, and after the 5 or 6 weeks or whatever, like, I'll be done. Like, I'm done helping people. We can all just go off and race together. Like, that was the thought process. Yeah. And we had some people sign up for the training. It was, I can't remember what it was. It wasn't much. It was like $27 or $30, $37.
Yeah.
And this was literally in like February or March of 2020. And this is right when all of the lockdowns are, things are starting to get crazy.
Yep.
And I had people messaging me. I mean, there was 1 or 2 that were upset that I was charging money, but I had, 7, 8, 9 people, 10 people. I mean, it was almost a dozen people who had messaged me, and they were like, "Dude, I would love to go to this. Thank you very much for your help." But they're like, with us being shut down, I can't risk, $37 or whatever it was. They're like, I don't know when I'll get paid again. You know what I mean? And I completely understood that. You know what I mean? Like, I was just like, look, you guys, we're all going to be stuck at home right now. Like, nobody knew what was going to happen. I mean, we obviously had no idea at that time it would become what it has. But even then, they were talking about us, being shut down for whatever it was, 6 weeks or whatever.
Yep.
And it was like, look, we're all going to be stuck at home. I'll just do it for free. You know what I mean? And that was the best thing you can, whether you want to call it, divine intervention, fate, destiny, I don't know. Stupid, dumb luck, whatever it is. But that was the best thing that could have happened, because that group of 10 people or whoever that had signed up, all of a sudden we had 60 or 70. I mean, we had so many people who signed up for this free training, we couldn't fit them all into the session.
Wow.
And, the first week we did it, I did it. We had a full server, and I'm in there in a 305 sprint car, kind of teaching the basics of driving it and stuff like that. And I'm trying to hold my push to talk button and chat in iRacing. And know what I mean? It's not going very well.
Yep.
And somebody was like, look, why don't you use Discord next week? And I'm like, I don't even know what Discord is.
I didn't either. I didn't either.
They were like, just go check it out. You can do a voice channel that we can all get into. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And so I set up the School of Sim Racing Discord, and that next week, a guy by the name of Bruce Klingen, he's been with me since the beginning. He's still with me to this day. And he was like, dude, I know all about this stuff. I can handle this Discord for you. I was like, dude, do whatever it's yours. Have at it. Yeah. I don't know nothing about it.
Cool.
Go for it. And it was a match made in heaven. He's been with me ever since the beginning. He's my number two. I mean, the only person who has, I'm the only person who has more invested in the School of Sim Racing than Bruce. I mean, he's right there with me in terms of time and effort and stuff like that.
So let's jump back
we did those trainings, and when the trainings were over, people were coming to me and saying, well, what are we going to do for setups? I'm like, well, what do you mean? I just taught you guys how to build them. They're like, we don't have time. Will you build us setups? I'm like, if I build everybody setups, I got to charge money for that.
There you go.
And I think it started off at $2. It was like $2 a month for the Insider program. That's cheap. And now it starts at $4 a month. But yeah, that was how the Insider program got started. I had people who were like, dude, I don't want to spend time building setups.
Yeah.
Like, I'll just give you the $2 or whatever it was. So it was like $2 a call or something. Or they could get all of them for $6 or $7 a month or something like that. So that was how the Insider program got started.
So that's the subscription program. Back to the community for a second, because I know how important that is, because you get one of the Kardashians, all she's got to say is she bought a new purse, and her community of 2 million people go, oh, and she gets $25,000 just for saying she bought a new purse.
Yes.
How does your community stay relevant and under your control without you being there pushing all the buttons? Is it self-sustaining? Do you got to get in there and prime the pump every once in a while, or is everybody just so rah-rah sim racing school that it just takes care of itself?
Well, the sim racing community that we have now, the SSR community, really takes care of itself. I have a group of guys who are incredible, who do a lot of the day-to-day stuff for me. The School of Sim Racing has become a full-fledged business now. I formed the LLC last year,
yep.
And we have 3 brands that operate under that, which is School of Sim Racing, the Esports Racing Network, which is my broadcasting network, and then the National Auto Racing Club, which is my league. So all of those operate under my LLC, Thomas Brandon Ventures. And I have people in the community that I contract. They're like contract workers to handle stuff for me. Other people who are, whether they're just, they just volunteer. I give them access to stuff for free, or they're on the race team, or they just want to help, or whatever, And so a lot of the little day-to-day stuff gets taken care of for me. Mm-hmm. I spend a lot of my time on the big picture stuff and the kind of the branding and the content and stuff. My job is, I do a big chunk of the Insider program. I build the setups for, 8 asphalt oval series and 3 dirt series.
Okay.
So I do those, and then I have people who do the other dirt stuff for me. And then, in terms of being involved with the community, we do, kind of races every now and then. My league runs 3 nights a week. I do a lot of live streaming. People message me, or there's conversations that are happening nonstop in the Discord. So it really it's really self-sustaining now, because
Cool.
one of the good things about it is there's a lot of people in that Discord server that have been there since the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, you look at guys like Bruce or Greg Lamy or Kale or Lane or Jordan or Joe. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And those guys have been there since the beginning. And those guys are all phenomenal sim racers, right? And they're good in a multitude of cars. It's not like everybody runs a sprint car, right? I mean, we've got road racers and cup drivers and we started off as dirt, so a big chunk of it is dirt, but they all can help people, and they're all there to help people. And we have an ignition series that we use to teach new drivers. It's our league that's where you go. If you are below 2K iRating in dirt and you want to learn, you go to the Ignition series.
Oh, that's cool.
And they work with you there. They race, every week, and they work with the drivers there, and it's kind of like a training ground. So we've got a lot of stuff that we've built over time, and it kind of brings people in from the bottom and takes them all the way up. And we've also got avenues for the drivers who are plenty good. They don't need any schooling. They just want to be a part. We have a lot of drivers in the community. They don't need training. They don't need my help. They're there just because it's a great community that they can interact with other sim racers. Okay. And that's the best part about it.
So let's jump back to, you said it's a lifestyle community. It's more than sim racing. And because you mentioned some of the brands that your products you're going after, anything related to guys. Aside from racing topic itself, what is the number one non-racing topic that everybody's talking about now on your community? What are guys doing besides racing on your Discord now?
Well, I don't know what all of them are doing. I can tell you, my group, we talk about everything. Mm-hmm. Probably can't mention some of the stuff we talk about just because it is guy talk a lot of times, but yeah, I mean, what was it, last night or the night before, we were talking about just sports, but you know what I mean? We were talking about what's going on over in the Ukraine right now. I mean, we talk about everything. Gotcha. A lot of these guys, like I said, they've been here since the beginning. A lot of them I consider friends. One of them, Chris Ficati, he was one of the first people I ever did a one-on-one session. Chris is a friend of mine now, and so is his wife. Last year in November, I went back and stayed with them in South Carolina and went to the World Finals with them. The World Finals. Yeah. They're friends now. They're not just people in the community. Like, they're friends, and there's a lot of people like that in the SSR community. Now with me, that are friends. I talk to them all the time. Like, when something happens, if somebody's, is sick, or a family member gets hurt, or whatever. I mean, it could be any of those things. Right. Our group is, we have kind of a group within the big community, but those guys are the ones that I talk to first and foremost. If something's going on, they're the ones I let know, not just because, hey man, I need someone to cover the race for me tonight, but because that's what we do. Like I said, we're friends. So it's become a really, really unique, community, and it gets bigger every day. We have new people who come in every day, and it's great. We're always happy to have more and more people come in.
Wow. Speaking of Ukraine, something just came up. Europe's largest nuclear plant in southern Ukraine is reportedly on fire after Russia attacked the power station. How relevant is that?
That is scary.
Yes. Yep. A friend of mine just sent that to me. We were just talking about that, right? What are you guys talking about, the Ukraine thing?
That's crazy.
Yeah. So we have a similar thing with our league is... like an admin meeting. There's I'm here in New York, and the other admin is on Long Island, about 3 or 4 hours away, and the other one is over in Ireland. So we have our admin meetings usually at 6 o'clock on Wednesday evenings, and we talk about the last races, but the last 2 races on Sunday and the truck race on Tuesday night went 90 laps, green flag racing the whole time. So we had nothing to talk about for penalties and everything. So the discussion turned into metric versus English measurements on stuff between weather, the guy in Ireland and how we do things over here. And then it started talking about my daughter's wedding in 2 weeks and what everybody does. Like you said, it's a friendship, and it's the coolest thing because my wife will walk in. She goes, "Oh, you're in your meeting?" I said, "Yeah, say hi to Al." He goes, "Oh, where's Al?" "Oh, he's over in Ireland." "Oh, hi, how you doing?" So it's very similar.
It's great.
Yeah. Your broadcasting company that you do there.
Yes.
What leagues do you broadcast? How do you market yourself to other leagues?
Pretty much, I started ESRN to broadcast my league.
Got it. Okay.
That was why we started doing it. I've done a couple of races for other people who are in the SSR community. They'll say, "Hey, we need a broadcaster. Can you do it for me?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure." But for the most part, the ESRN was really started to broadcast my racing league.
Yeah. Okay.
Because we just the number of we run we have 7, 8. If you count the Ignition series, I think we have 8 series in our league.
Yep.
We run 2 on Wednesdays, 2 on Thursdays, 2 on Tuesdays. We have one. The Ignition also runs on Tuesdays, and then I think there's another one on Saturday or Sundays. And paying broadcasting for all of that is it's a lot of money. And when you factor in the cost that I for the award plaques that I send out after every season, and we do 3 seasons a year, that's the awards themselves and the shipping and all that stuff. That's $300-$400 or something like that.
Oh yeah.
If you take that and then you factor into broadcast all of those series all season, and also each season, I think each series runs 12 or 13 races. You're talking about a couple $1,000. So that was why we started ESRN. We had people who were like, "Dude, I'll broadcast and I'll do it." And so it was like, all right, I'll just set it up. And I broadcast every once in a while the league races. We have a couple of other guys who also do it. And so it's just our way of being able to broadcast our league. And as people love racing in a broadcasted event. They just do. You know what I mean? And it doesn't matter who's broadcasting it. It could just be me on my YouTube channel, on ESRN broadcasting it. And people don't care. If the race is being broadcasted, it's better. It's just better. They just enjoy it. Being able to go back and watch a broadcast of the race that you were just in, people love to do that. And so when we can provide that, we do it. And so that was how we got that started.
Gotcha. And it's great because, like I said, our guy down there in Long Island, he works in construction down in Manhattan, and he starts talking about, this iRacing league, Joe Six-Pack Racing, that he's in, and his construction guys are like, "What, you play video games on Sunday? You're 40-something years old." He goes, "No, you got to watch it." He goes, it's broadcast, and he gave him the link, and all of a sudden, he's got a regular crew showing up every Sunday, where at home having a couple beers wherever they are, cheering them on while we're racing, and it's just really cool. So yeah, that little broadcasting does make a big difference.
Yes, it does. It does make a big difference. So yeah, that was why we started ESRN, and it's been good.
Good.
It's been a lot of fun.
Cool. Okay, so if somebody wants to get in touch with you for training or get into your leagues, because you sounds like you had a bunch of leagues, how do they get in touch with you for the School of Sim Racing if they want some one-on-one? What's the lead time? Another thing is if I'm doing a race and I want to set up, I know you're probably going to charge me $5,000 if I say I've got a race in 10 minutes versus a race in a couple of weeks. How do you get in touch with you for personal training on the paid stuff? And if you want a custom setup, what's the lead time that you can get it done in a reasonable time, but also do it right so you're not rushing?
So if you want to get in touch with me, the best way to do anything, anything, go to schoolofsimracing.net and then click on the button that says join the SSR sim racing community.
And you can't
when
miss
you
it.
Do that, yep. you sign up and you get put on the email list, and then you get the link to the Discord, you get the link to the Facebook group, and the Discord is the best way to contact me. Just send me a message through the Discord.
Cool.
If you are really wanting to schedule a one-on-one session, like I said, I always recommend go through all of my free stuff first. Please check out the free stuff first before you spend money. But if that's really what you want to do, on the website, you'll see a thing that says coaching sessions. Just click on the button. It'll take you to the calendar where you can schedule it.
Got it.
If you want a custom setup, that is something that I don't have a sign-up form for or something like that. That is something that you're going to have to contact me, and I'm going to have to talk to you about. I don't do a lot of custom setups. Just for the fact that, unless it's like, look, I need it right now, you know what I mean? It's like one of those things. But, I am doing one for somebody right now. I think they need it next weekend or something like that. I had, a week to do it. And I'm, working on it. It'll be done probably tomorrow. For the Cup car, the A car at, I think it's Darlington, and that's I think I told him $20 or something like that. You know what I mean?
Reasonable.
It's like $20.
Yeah.
So the thing is that is based on the time I have to do it, what's going on. Like you said, if you hit me up and you're like, dude, I need a custom setup for tomorrow, it's not going to be 5,000, but it's not going to be 20. It might be like $30. You know what I mean? Like if I got to knock it out like really quick, it might be a little bit more. That's one of those things I don't do a lot of. I will, but I don't do a lot of. We try to, the thing with the Insider program, and it's hard because in the Insider program we do go off of the iRacing official schedule, and obviously people's leagues and stuff like that are different. And so now that we're doing more asphalt stuff, because that we see a lot more of that on the asphalt side than the dirt side. There's not a lot of people who are like, do I need a custom sprint car setup for tonight's league race? Like there's not too many people who need that. Asphalt, you see it more. What I'm doing is I'm archiving a lot of the setups when we take them down during week 13, because we start over each new season. And I'm archiving those and saving those off to the side, and then those will be for people who sign up in the Insider program later, or there's a race coming up and they got to have a setup now. Those will be available this next season. I will start putting those up to where people can just buy a setup individually if they need something short notice.
And finally, to get in contact with you if they want to race in your leagues, how do they go about it? The same thing, the Discord.
Our Discord for SSR is also for our league. Our sim racing community, it encompasses everything. So, if you're interested in the league right now, we don't take new members. We do not recruit during the season. We do run a lot of special events and stuff like that. And so the way that it works is once the season starts, we stop recruiting. But when the season is over, which it will be over here, I want to say in 4 or 5 more weeks, when it's over, we do open up the recruiting, and everybody in the Discord is alerted. They are the ones who know first. We tell everybody in the Discord and also the email list, hey, recruiting is now open if you want to join the league. So because we don't do a lot of, I don't post it on Facebook. I won't go outside the community and be like, hey, if you want to join the league, come on in. We really try to keep those in the league,
that's a good move.
or people who are in the league as those who have already been in the community.
And and the Discord
address. Yeah, that's the best way to do it.
Okay, the Discord address.
School of Sim Racing.
Cool, easy enough.
It's School of Sim Racing. Yep. If you go to Discord and search School of Sim Racing, you should find it.
Very good. Well, you certainly gave me a lot of information on other aspects and the building of the community, which I think is real important because that's basically word of mouth advertising for you. So Tom, thanks for stopping by tonight. And we've been talking an hour and 15 minutes. It feels like 20 minutes.
That's crazy. It goes by fast.
Okay. So Thomas Brandon Gaming, School of Sim Racing. You can find him at schoolofsimracing.net. School of Sim Racing on Discord. A bunch of leagues. They broadcast their leagues and plenty of help on the setups there. And get out there and join that lifestyle community. So, Tom, how about we check back in a couple of months and see how things are going and have you back on at maybe sometime beginning of your next season there if you're interested.
Yeah, it sounds great, man. That'd be awesome.
Excellent. Well, in the meantime, once again, thanks for stopping in on the Joe Sixpack podcast. It'll be up on Twitter, not Twitter, but Twitch right now, YouTube shortly, and share it with your friends. And if you had a good time, let us know, and we'll have you back. And then once again, thanks for stopping by.
Yep. Thank you for having me, man. I'll talk to you later.
All right. Have a good night.
You too.
Bye-bye. Thomas Brandon Gaming, School of Sim Racing. Started out trading Forex, the foreign exchange. And I know exactly what he means by when the market is slow and traders don't trade. They make money on the momentum, up momentum and down momentum. I got a little bit of familiarity with that, but certainly not like somebody that's been trading Forex there. And you can get a hold of him one more time at schoolofsimracing.net on the web. They have free training, the Insider Program, the SSR Community, which he said is about 7,000 strong. And like a lot of iRacing groups, it becomes a lifestyle. It's not just racing. It's a bunch of guys hanging out and doing what guys do. And also expert coaching available. One-on-one coaching and setups, etc. like that. And you can join their leagues by getting a hold of their Discord, which is School of Sim Racing on Discord. Thomas Brandon Gaming, School of Sim Racing. Once again, thank you very much for being a guest tonight on the Joe Sixpack podcast. Now, a little bit of league news. The Rising Stars series schedule, which is a 3-week series for the Joe Sixpack Racing League for drivers like myself who 4 seasons across 2 leagues, probably over 100 races, haven't won anything. Did finish 3rd once. It's a special series for drivers that show up every week that don't win but still put in a good performance or just like to get out there and drive. Starting on March 14th, it's going to be 3 races on 3 consecutive Monday nights, the 14th, 21st, and 28th, over a period of 2 weeks. On March 14th, we'll be at Concord for 150 laps. March 21st will be Southern National, 150 laps. The 28th, the final race, will be at Lanier, also 150 laps. The sessions open at 5:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, with the races kicking off at 6 p.m., and they will be broadcast by 2.5 Drunk Guys, which is Al Reed, one of our admins in the league, Robert Tuisco, who's out in Detroit, and then a color commentator, probably Dave LaMotta down on Long Island. He's the half-drunk guy, maybe because he can't drink that much or he's short. We haven't figured that out yet. So 2.5 Drunk Guys Broadcasting will be doing the Rising Star Series schedule. And again, that's running March 14th through the 18th. Concord, Southern National, Lanier. 12 drivers, myself included, who have been dedicated Joe Sixpack racers that have yet to win a race. And also, I want to thank Pappy's iWraps, who will be sponsoring the Joe Sixpack Racing Truck Series race next Tuesday night at Bristol. I've seen their work out there on the Facebook group, some pretty sharp stuff, and we want to thank Joe Nelson, who's in our truck series, for bringing Pappy's iWraps to us, and we'll be talking them up for quite a while. If you ever want to sponsor one of our races or the podcast, it's not a single event. We talk about it during, before, and after. Pappy's Eye Wraps is on our Facebook page. It's on all our pages here tonight on the Joe Sixpack Podcast. We want to thank them for being the primary sponsor next Tuesday night on the Turn 3 Network, the Joe Sixpack Truck Series, 7 p.m. The lobby opens, 7:30 the race starts, and it goes live on Turn 3 Network. And I want to thank Brett the Jet for helping us out right there. Here's some people talking about our charter system, which is called Lugcoin. It's kind of a play on going from 5 lug nuts to 1. It's kind of a rarity today to find any lug nuts laying around the track. So Lugcoin is our Joe Sixpack Racing private crypto, which serves as a way to donate some money to Joe Sixpack Racing if you are in the league, and money goes into a fund to help cover broadcasting, which is about $300 a month, and then another $30 or $40 a month in prizes and track time. But the neat thing about it is, right now it's voluntary. It's not a dues. It's not a buy-in. And when you leave, you can sell your Lugcoin back to the league. And if you make any profits from your purchase price, you split it 50-50 with the league. In other leagues, you got to pay to race, and you don't get anything back unless you win. Here you can take part ownership in your league, as well as maybe make some beer money. So if you're interested, hit me up on Lugcoin, which is the value is determined by the average of 3 regular cryptos, a large cap crypto, a metaverse crypto, and a low cap crypto. And it's just a cool way to get in for $10 and sell it back when you leave, or leave it here with us and split any profits with the league. That's Lugcoin, the official crypto coin of Joe Sixpack Racing. If you want to support the league in any other way, or the podcast, you can go to the Joe Sixpack Racing merch shop, cafepress.com/Joe Sixpack Racing League, where you can buy such cool things as the Joe Sixpack hoodie, which we have with the Joe Sixpack Racing League logo, the Truck Series logo, the Cup Series logo, or the Joe Sixpack Podcast logo. Over 500 different items for you to choose from, in sizes from small to triple extra large, including pajamas and pillows and winter stuff and summer stuff and beer glasses and Christmas ornaments and whatever you have. And $5 of every purchase goes to the league to underwrite the cost of running the league. And once again, I want to thank School of SimRacing.net for being here tonight. Thomas Brandon, the School of Sim Racing, and thanks for telling us all about your great community out there and setups and all the good stuff there. And you can find them at schoolofsimracing.net. And if you want to get into their league and get into their community, the SSR community, it's Sim Racing School on Discord. And that's it for the Joe Sixpack Podcast for this week. We'll be back next week with a couple of other guests that we're looking to book. And if you've got a story to tell about iRacing, sim racing, or real life racing, or anything related to going fast, give us a holler on Facebook at the Joe Sixpack Podcast on the Facebook page, Joe Sixpack Racing League on Facebook as well. And tell me when you're available, and we can customize a time to get to you. Once again, we'll see you on the track. This has been another special edition of the Joe Sixpack Racing Podcast, the official voice of the Joe Sixpack Racing League, and sponsored tonight by Pappy's Wraps, Pappy's Eye Wraps, who will be sponsoring our truck race on Tuesday night. And as usual, we'll see you on the track.